Hey everybody, this is Kim.
This is Kathleen.
And we are the K&K twins. We're here to have some uncomfortable conversations with the K&K twins. So it's been a while since we recorded. We always struggle with our technical difficulties, which apparently we're struggling with right now because the camera's moving.
Sorry. Now we're really crooked. Sorry. Should we start over?
No.
Okay.
This is us.
This is us. It's true.
So last time we were together, Kathleen was getting ready to go visit family and was preparing to have some uncomfortable conversations. And so I thought it would be great for us to kind of revisit that and have some conversations about those conversations and how she felt and how they looked. So this is going to be really kind of a different podcast for us, but we're hoping that we learn a lot through it, and then of course get to bring you along for the ride and you guys learn a lot. So Kathleen has traveled. She's been all around the world. She celebrated a birthday since the last time we've been together. And you needed to have some uncomfortable conversations with some very specific people.
I did. It was, we had decided, Kim and I had talked about this, and I had decided that before we really published these podcasts that we wanted to have some conversations with our families out of respect to kind of prepare them, for what was coming. So the two people I wanted to talk to the most were my sister and my daughter. And just kind of my family in general, to kind of prepare them for some of the content and some of the things I've been talking about. And I was very concerned. I was nervous about talking to my sister. I was about to ask you, how did you feel
before having the conversation?
I was nervous about talking to my sister, and I was trying to find the right time, and I just wasn't sure how to bring it up. And what actually ended up happening...
Before you go to what ended up happening, why were you nervous?
I wasn't sure how she was going to respond. In my mind, I pictured that she would be, I didn't know how receptive she would be. She was closer to my mom than me, and some of my issues were with my mom. And so I didn't know if she would be protective of that, or if she would be angry because I was, speaking my truth about my experience in our family. And so I was concerned that it wouldn't go well necessarily.
Okay.
There might be some defensiveness or some anger.
Those are challenges we have as families. Okay. So you were nervous, but you knew you needed to have these conversations. Other than wanting to promote these, why did you need to have these conversations with her and with your daughter and other people?
I think that's part of my healing journey. I think, going through the healing process, there are times when you need to be honest and talk about your truth and your experiences, and sometimes you need to make amends, and sometimes you just need to be honest and say, hey, this hurt me, this impacted my life in a negative way, and understanding that other people may not understand how this impacted me, and so my behavior and how things triggered me and how I acted out with that, where that came from, maybe not understanding that it wasn't just typical teenage angst, that this was really some other deeper wounds at play.
Definitely.
Those kinds of things, yeah.
Okay. So how did you start the conversation?
Well, it was interesting because what happened was we were at a family lunch. We all got together and had a meal, and my brother and sister-in-laws. And I was talking, I don't even know how it came up, but we were talking about YouTube, I think, and I said, we have a YouTube channel, we do a podcast, and everyone wanted to know what was that about, And so I just kind of started explaining it just in general terms to some of the family. So I kind of broke the ice there a little bit. And one of my, I feel like one of the members of my family, the next generation of my family, also had a similar experience as I did in our family of origin, growing up with one of my siblings. And so I wanted to chat with him a little bit to get his, perspective on and how he was feeling about some things. And so when we got together again over, at my sister's house, and a lot of folks were there, we talked again about the podcast, and I shared it. I said, I'm going to send you this link, because he's dating a young lady who kind of, I think, has some of the same issues. And so I just kind of wanted to share that with him. So I was kind of breaking the ice a little bit. I was kind of bringing it up and talking about it, but I didn't talk about it directly with my sister. I just kind of talked about it generally to everybody that was there. And I shared the link So then, anyway, so when it came to finally talking to my sister, I said, you heard me talking the other night about the podcast, and I just want to kind of talk to you a little bit about that, because we're going to push these podcasts out for folks to listen to, and I just want you to understand where I'm coming from and what my truth is and what my journey has been. And it really ended up being so wonderful, so healing with my sister. It just went so much better than I imagined. She was really open and receptive, but what was really so special was that when you're a child, you see your own experiences. You don't really pay attention to what is happening with someone else. So, I was very aware that my sister was my mom's favorite. That was very, very apparent. But my sister wasn't necessarily aware of that. Like,
you thought everybody knew
right?
it.
That became,
like even she knew it.
Exactly. Yeah. Like we just assumed, like when you're in the middle of it, you just feel like this is normal. This is the norm, and everyone gets treated like this, and you don't recognize, your privilege, I guess, when you have it, right? Yeah. It's like,
that's
right?
a really good analogy.
So exactly, that's and so you don't necessarily see what someone else might be going through. So it's easier to kind of poo-poo that. But what I learned was, my sister, we were raised by the same parents, and even though her experience was a little bit different than mine, she was still raised in a household with dysfunctional parents. And so there was an impact to her that I didn't realize. She still had some of the same things that I went through. And so it was very enlightening to hear that from her and to see what her perspective was in that. And some of the pain it caused her, she was just more introverted and she hid it better than I did,
And I hope this is okay for me to say, but one of the things you shared is you, in the past, before having this conversation with her, felt like her relationships with people in her family were better because she had a better experience in her childhood. But from what I understand, she had those same hang-ups and those same maybe codependent patterns that you had, whatever. But because of relearning, she didn't act it out. So you thought, oh, well, it was because she was raised better or loved better that she didn't carry those.
Yeah. I thought she didn't have some of the same wounds I had. Finally having this conversation, I realized that she did indeed have some of these same wounds. Now, she was blessed in that she ended up marrying a more emotionally healthy man. And so he kind of helped her relearn some of those things. He came from a healthier household, family of origin, where I went the other way and, married a more dysfunctional person from a very dysfunctional family. So I always thought she had the perfect life with the perfect kids, a perfect marriage, all of those things. I didn't realize some of the struggles that she went through earlier on. And so, you never know someone's life. Looking in, you think they've got this, that, or the other, and they don't necessarily. So anyway, that was very enlightening to me. I'm sorry. I feel like you're not in the picture as much. So there you are. Okay, there you are.
So how did the conversation end? Do you remember that?
I don't. I really don't remember how it ended. I just felt like we both felt lighter. I felt like we both felt more connected. I think we understood each other better in a way that we haven't before. And I truly feel like it brought us closer. I feel a lot closer to her.
And how have things, it's probably been, 2 or 3 weeks since you had that conversation with her now?
Yeah.
So how have things changed even in the last 2 or 3 weeks?
Just I seem to have more of a desire to, share my life with her and call her and talk with her and be communicative with her and in ways that we haven't in the past. I mean, we communicate, but I never shared like some of the little things going on in my life. I had moved away from home. I was the only one that left home, right? I moved away, moved out of state, went, far away, and never actually went back. And so I don't have the same connection with the larger family in the area. They're all in the same area, the nieces and the nephews and the grandnieces and nephews and whatnot. And, so I had left. So now I feel like lately it's just seemed like the family is so much more important to me, and that I want to reestablish some of those connections. So,
so that was good revelation, and that I feel like that was a great way to start having those conversations because you had such a positive. Because I'm sure not all of the conversations we are going to have when we have these uncomfortable conversations are going to be positive.
Right.
So I'm glad the first one was.
Yeah.
Okay,
That was good.
so-
I was prepared for it not to be.
Yeah,
I was. And so,
you didn't think she was going to hear you.
Right.
Is that accurate?
I thought there was going to be defensiveness or anger or whatever. And I think that we're both much more mature than we were when we were younger and tried to, address some of this stuff. But I think too that, I don't know. I just think we were both in a different place now in our lives, and we're able to hear each other more, so I think that was better. But do be prepared that when we're having these conversations, I was prepared for anything. When I talk to whoever I talk to, if they're not receptive, that's not necessarily on me.
Right.
I'm going to speak what I need to say and do what I feel like I need to do, and how they receive that information or respond to me is up to them. And that I will not take that to heart. I will, understand that that's their journey. And so I will only expect responsibility for mine.
And that's part of the struggle we have as codependents, because we gauge our feelings, our value, our worthiness based on how other people respond to us. So if they don't respond positively, we automatically internalize that and think that's us. So you really had to kind of go into it with that healthy thinking and healthy perspective that I'm going to say what I know needs to be said because this is what healthy people do. And how she responds is however she responds.
Right.
I'm only responsible for me. Oh, so that's good.
Yeah.
Yay. Sounds good. Okay. So what about you? Did you have another? I know you had 2 more conversations. Is that right?
No, just one.
Okay. Go ahead. So do you want to talk about that one?
Yeah. So I did talk to my daughter, and I felt like this was one where I felt like I need to do some amends, realizing and understanding my parenting style from a codependent perspective now. So it was just kind of the tip of the iceberg with us. I think there's a lot more that we need to explore. But the initial point for this first conversation.
Go ahead. Before you go into that,
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about how you felt about having that conversation before you started. Because you and I have been talking about this for months.
Right.
If not a year or more, knowing you needed to have this conversation, thinking about what you wanted to say and making sure you communicated from your heart, knowing you felt like you had a lot to apologize for. So going into a conversation that's, it feels really heavy. How did it feel for you as you were like getting ready to have that conversation with your dad?
Yeah. This was a tough one. Yeah, it was, I was nervous, but in a different way.
Okay.
For different reasons.
Right.
And I think part of my fear as a parent is that, there was always a possibility that your child can just blast you and say, yes, you ruined my life. You were a horrible parent, and that might happen, so I wasn't quite sure. I wanted to make sure that I was emotionally ready to hear that so that I didn't respond back or if she shared, yes, this really hurt me, this damaged me, that I wasn't saying, well, and trying to defend and justify and getting upset. I wanted to make sure I was receptive and I was just going to listen and hear her heart, hear her feedback, and just let her talk and tell me how it felt without responding. So, and I did some of that. So I raised the first issue because there's so many. One of the things I really felt convicted about was my controlling. I was such a controlling parent, wanting to make sure everything was right and good and all of those things. And some of my motivations for that, I would tell myself, was to help her and train her and teach her how to be a good, responsible person and blah, blah, blah. But a lot of it was control, and some of it is, and this is hard, parents, but you need to hear this. Sometimes we are so concerned with how our child's behavior reflects on us, and that somehow it will make us appear to be bad parents, that if our kids are bad, we're bad. If our kids misbehave, it's because we're bad parents.
Yep.
Exactly. So it becomes about us rather than really what is best for your child and how you develop that relationship. Keeping in mind, too, that my parents, particularly my father, was a punisher. Discipline was about punishment. It wasn't necessarily about teaching and modifying behavior.
Right. It wasn't about correction.
No, it wasn't about correction or teaching. It was about, discipline. So that was my parenting style as well. So one of the first things I I owned to her as I said, honey, I need to apologize because I feel like I was very much a controlling parent. I was way too controlling with you. And I tried to, I was too rigid, too controlling with everything going on in your life. And so she did say, she said, that really, it led me to rebel more.
Which we now know. That's
right?
What happens.
Exactly. And also then they lie. She said, I couldn't tell you certain things. Even when I wanted to come to you for help, I didn't know how you would respond because I would tend to take over and try and fix everything rather than trying to help her walk through it. Right. I would tell her, this is what, we need to do this. I'm going to call this person. I'm going to do, I'm going to fix this right now. I didn't allow her the dignity of verbally processing her issue and asking her, how do you think you should handle this? What is it you think you're going to do? What's the solution here? And helping her come to her own solution. And maybe if it's not the one we would choose, let her do it anyway, because she will learn from that rather than me trying to force a fix on her.
Right.
So she was able to say, yes, absolutely, I was too controlling, which led her not to be honest sometimes, to hide things, and sneak around to a certain extent.
How do you feel like, how do you think she felt when you apologized? Do you feel, was she more like it's about time? Was there like, peace, like finally? Were there walls up? What was her initial response when you started apologizing?
I think when I first started talking, there were some walls up because I don't know that she trusted that it was really safe, that I really meant this, that I wasn't going to come back at her. And at one point I did have a rebuttal, and then I corrected. But I said, yeah, you know what, you're right. And I could see where that would happen. And that's legitimate. And, I validated her feelings because they are just her feelings and she's entitled to those. And so we talked about some of that. And I feel like kind of in the end, she felt more release about it, more peaceful about it, that she was accepting that. Now, one of the things she did tend to do is say, oh, that's okay. But it's not. It's not okay. Codependents tend to do that because they try to make everyone else feel okay.
Right.
So I had to say, you know what? That is not necessarily what I'm looking for. You don't have to make it okay for me. I made some mistakes as a parent. I'm owning those and I'm apologizing for those. You can accept those however you want, but it's not okay.
Yeah. And so you had this conversation. While you were having the conversation, did you feel like, you said the one time you kind of, were defending yourself. Did you feel like you were able to kind of maintain your healthy pattern of thinking versus your our codependent way where we try to defend ourselves? And did you feel like you were able to kind of have a healthy conversation with her? And have you ever had a conversation with her that was as healthy as this one?
Yeah, I feel like this was a good, healthy conversation. And most of it really was me just owning stuff and apologizing, really, and her acknowledging. And I did at one point say, how did that make you feel? When I did that, how did that make you feel? And she was able to share with me those things, which I think was good. But again, this is just a starting point. This was just an initial conversation. I think over time, as people in your life that you're trying to address things with, as they begin to realize that you're serious, that you're consistent in this, that this is really not just a one-time thing or just a quick, I'm going through a phase. Right. I really mean this, and I really want to change, and I really want to restore our relationship to the best that it can be. I think that will begin to introduce even more healing moments and even more honesty and authenticity into our relationship.
And that makes sense because it wasn't just one conversation that caused us this pain and caused us to have these codependent patterns. It was many conversations over many years.
Yes.
And many behaviors over many years. So I feel like it's going to take many conversations, depending on how deep the wounds are.
Right.
Many conversations and many patterns of behavior that they need to see changed. They need to see, we've been working on this for a few years, and it's never been like a straight, like, we are just doing great.
This is not a linear progression.
Not at all.
This is an up and
it's down, up and down. Yeah, for sure.
We don't do it perfectly. No one's going to do it perfectly right out of the chute.
No. But we can look at our growth.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's part of the value of doing it as a community is because other people can point out to you and go, look what you did. Like, let's think about this. 2 years ago, would you have ever had that conversation with your daughter?
No.
Would you have ever
Probably
felt
not.
like, you know what, I should really apologize to her?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You'd have been like,
Parenting
she
her.
got what she, you know, she had a great life.
Yeah.
She had every meal. She, you know.
Right.
So they need to see this progression because it is a progression.
Mm-hmm.
And even though we've been doing a lot of hard work and it's been really painful for us sometimes, and even more than the pain, it's been rewarding. They're not around us every day.
Right? They don't always see that change now.
We
feel our change.
Yes.
You know, and it was a long, hard road. We're not there yet. But I feel like the person I am today is very, very different than the person I was 2 years ago when we started this journey. So
I agree.
I never would have been able to really express that or even think that, you know, I was too controlling as a parent.
Oh, I would have never said I was controlling.
Helicopter parent, enabling. What an enabler. You know, and what's interesting now is that Kim and I have some other friends that I'm so excited about the podcast and, you know, doing this book study and whatnot. And so I talk to people because I have friends who are clearly very codependent, but not everybody's ready for this.
Yeah.
You can't make someone do this. So we had a book club, a couple of different times, and people would start and they just would drop out. They just wouldn't stick with it. And we had one woman that actually said, this is too hard. This is too painful. This is too emotional. I can't handle this. Okay. That's okay. Fair and legitimate. When you're ready to deal with it, it's still there.
Yeah.
So we'll continue to have, you know, these book studies with people who are willing, you know, who are wanting to do that. But you have to really be committed to this process. We found that, like, we were so ready, like we were ready to change.
Even when it's rough. And that's what's great about, again, doing it as a community, because when you want to back out and not follow through and not do your homework and not, there's somebody else going, okay, come on, okay, all right,
we're gonna do this.
7 o'clock.
You know, we gotta do this. We gotta get going.
And so I think having that accountability is really, really important to your growth. And you know, you talk about how we're going to continue to do this for other people, but we're also continuing to do it for us because we have experienced so much growth, and because we want to grow so much more. And I want to reteach my children. You know, I'm really calling this season of my life the unlearning, where I'm unlearning all the things that I learned.
That's good. The unlearning. Woo!
Where I'm unlearning all these things that I have learned throughout the first 40 funky years of my life. Almost 50 funky years of my life. I have to unlearn these things that have not been working for me. Right. They may have served a purpose and worked when I was in unhealthy relationships, and they may have protected me when I was a child. Survival. But I'm not a child, and I'm choosing to function in healthy relationships and remove myself from unhealthy relationships. So I have to unlearn a lot. And so continuing to do these book clubs, and even doing the same material over and over again, it peels back the layers of the onion.
So many layers.
Yeah,
so many
layers. And the healing just gets deeper and deeper and deeper.
It does.
Sometimes, you know, that hurts, but
it does. But you know, huge props and huge respect to people who do come to this realization and understand it. Like, I used to think, I would hear people talk, like I heard this guy one time talk about how he used to beat his wife up. He used to beat her. And how he came to his realization, there were some things that happened in his life to recognize that is not who he needed to be, that he needed to change. And I was like amazed, like, you never hear that. And a guy doesn't wake up one day and say, you know, beating my wife is bad. I should probably stop, you know? So that man was so committed to his change process, and he put all this accountability stuff into place and walked that journey with a couple people that held him accountable. But to me, that's amazing because it doesn't happen very often. It's just a hard thing. And so I always have, you know, tremendous respect for people who actually commit. It's hard to change. You guys, everyone knows this, right? It is hard to change. You have to really be committed because it's so ingrained. Oh, stop. We don't want to go there.
We might start a podcast about that one day.
Maybe so, but really, change is difficult for people.
It is
because it's so ingrained.
Yes,
those habits, are so familiar.
Absolutely.
It's what you know. Even if you know they're unhealthy, how do you undo them?
Well,
how
even,
do you fix them?
Even in our codependent patterns, we have trouble identifying them because they feel normal.
Right.
We don't even see them because they are normal in our minds. So you can't change something that you don't even know exists.
Right. Exactly.
Like, if you are colorblind and you look at the color green and you think it's blue, you don't know.
Because you don't know what green looks like, right?
Exactly. So, you know, if you don't know, you don't know. But here's the challenge, you guys. When we do know, we know for a reason.
Right.
We know for a reason, and we know for a purpose, and that purpose is for us, but it's also for the people around us. Kathleen and I were talking earlier today about how when I realized I was an enabler, I knew her then. I knew we were friends then. We were at least acquaintances then. Never in the world could you have told me that we would be walking through this healing journey together.
That we'd be working together. That we would come to this. We're both codependent.
No.
That we both are willing and right now ready.
Yes.
Our hearts are ready to receive this truth and work our journey.
So this when you open your eyes and your ears, it's not just for you, and it is for you, and that's powerful.
Yeah.
But it's not just for you. There may be somebody else close to you who needs it,
right?
Who's not familial. There may be people in your family that need it. You know, I've been having a lot of conversations with. I have 4 daughters, and I've been having a lot of conversations with my daughters lately because I taught them wrong. And not because, that's what I said, not because I'm a bad mom necessarily, although some of my kids think I'm a bad mom. I didn't teach them I didn't teach them codependent behavior because I was a bad mom. I taught them codependent behavior because that was all I knew.
Because we were codependent.
I didn't know anything else.
You teach your kids the same thing.
And so I thought controlling and being perfect and making sure everybody thought the best, whether it was true or not, I thought that was normal. And I thought putting everybody before yourself and not taking care of having, you know, I know personal care, you know, self-care is like a thing, but like I literally did not value, and I did not make sure I was okay at any point in time. Right. Everybody was more important to me, which sounds selfless. And, you know, I feel like I was probably in my mind, a martyr. But what I have found is that was selfish because I wanted the glory of being the best mom.
We did.
And the best wife and the best churchgoer and the best whatever. But I wasn't actually behaving in any of those ways, really. I wasn't taking care of, I wasn't listening to my children.
Right.
I wasn't letting them be themselves. And
letting them feel.
And letting them feel their feelings, teaching them how to work through their feelings. I didn't teach them how to have healthy relationships. I wasn't having healthy relationships. So now I'm unlearning all that, but I have a responsibility to myself, but I have a responsibility to my children because now I'm seeing them in relationships where they are having codependent patterns. Right. And in the last couple of days, I've had to say quite a few times, that's my fault. I taught you that, and I'm really sorry. But I'm really working hard to unteach you and to teach you something different. But now they also have a responsibility to do their own unlearning. Right.
Exactly.
And I would be so happy if they would unlearn it in their 20s versus almost 50.
60.
If they could, you know, that would be so many years of a wonderful life versus the pain that I've gone through. So this journey is not just for you. This journey is for so many people
around you.
Even if you're scared, and go through the journey. And we've got some ways to help you go through the journey. Yes. Obviously, we've got this podcast, which, you know, we're going to continue to do.
So like and subscribe us. If you're enjoying this, like and subscribe.
Yes.
Okay.
And every time we have a new one, you'll be alerted.
Put some comments down there. Ask questions. Whatever you want to do.
Exactly. If you have questions, we will go back and do our best to answer them. If we don't have the answers, we'll help you find it because, you know, we've said from the beginning, we are not experts in any way, shape, or form. We are just we're just regular people walking through our own healing journey.
Trying to change.
Yeah, changing. We're not trying.
Yeah, we're changing.
Doing.
You know, Kim made a comment earlier tonight. She said, you know, this ain't no Hallmark movie. You know, we're not living in a Hallmark movie, and so everything doesn't wrap up nicely with a bow at the end, which I love Hallmark movies, but
yeah, we do.
I'm just
That's
saying,
why we love them.
we love them, but they're not real life.
Yeah.
This is real life. It's messy.
Mm-hmm.
It's painful.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, you got to get your fingers and get dirty. You got to get your hands in and roll up your sleeves and get ready to do the work.
And those uncomfortable conversations don't end with everybody hugging in the end and living happily ever after.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
That all that stuff is a lie. And that's why we like it, because it feels good and it's not reality.
Right.
But we live in reality.
We want those happy endings, you know,
So
we didn't get in our own lives, you know, but now we're working towards that. We're working towards our own healthy, happy ending.
But even our healthy, happy endings aren't Hallmark movies.
No,
like
they're not.
That's
not reality.
I cried last night because I got told, your daughter did this because that's what you did.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh.
Right.
And I was like, I don't understand. Why would she do such a thing? And the response was, you do understand. You did the same thing. Remember when you told me this story? You did that too. And
they learned it from us. It's so hard.
I cried because I taught my kids how to have these unhealthy patterns. And then I also cried because how could I possibly think I'm so great that I don't understand it?
Right? We know.
I completely understand it. How insensitive of me and how prideful of me. To go, how could she do that? I thought
that's what she learned. My daughters, our kids are the same thing.
I know how she did it. I know what it's like to hide the truth because you're embarrassed.
Right.
I know what it's like to protect an abuser.
Right? Protect the person that isn't treating you right. You make excuses to everybody else. You don't want them to know how their behavior is, the wrong behavior they have or how they're hurting you.
The shame that goes along with that.
Mm-hmm.
The things you keep in secret.
Right.
Shame.
You protect them.
Shame can't live in the dark.
Right? They protect the abuser.
bringing everything to light and talking about it and being truthful and honest.
Mm-hmm. It's freeing. It is. There's this peace in that. It's really freeing. So it's really hard. Sometimes what's hard now is seeing people, like especially, we have kind of a mutual friend who's very codependent, and she is raising her kids to be so codependent. She is a huge enabler, but she doesn't see it.
At all.
And that's
just like
okay. It's just because we didn't either. We didn't see it either.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, we were tempted to sit back and think, oh my gosh, can't she see that she's ruining her kids, kind of a thing? No, she can't.
No.
She can't.
Mm-mm.
We didn't either. If you would have told me this 10 years ago, 5 years ago, no. So
sad, right?
you have to be in a place where you're receptive to hearing truth.
And remember, one of the fundamental truths of being a codependent is we lack objectivity. We do not see ourselves clearly.
No, we don't.
And so that makes it really, really important to have a community and a sounding board to go, that's not really what you do. And we had a conversation earlier, and she was like, okay, tell me, is this like me? Is this what I do? And you need to have people in your life that you can ask those questions and they'll tell you the truth.
That can speak that truth for you. Yeah, you have to have that. You have to have a friend that can really be honest with you, because there's no way to change and grow if you're not open to hearing truth. And sometimes the truth is the ugly parts.
Yeah.
Show me the ugly parts of me that I need to bring into the light and address. So I we had this conversation, and I actually took some notes, and I said later, okay, here's what I wrote down. Did I hear you? Is this what you're saying? And just to make sure I understood, and that will help me. I have it in writing so I can refer to it and say, okay, when things start triggering me and I start responding certain ways, and I gave Kim permission, okay, when you see this happening, say to me, okay, I feel like you're being triggered. I feel like you're being reactive. Let's rein it in. And so that is going to be, I know, but it's going to be so helpful to me. But the trick is, you have to be open to that. So that's kind of one of our words we're going to be using is openness, willingness and openness. If you're not open to this, everything she said could have gone right over my head. I could have got angry, defensive all of those kinds of things. Instead, just listening and hearing, and then asking some questions to, okay, clarify, expand on that, and hearing what she's saying. That's going to make me a better person.
And if you don't have that person in your life, we know that what we have is not normal.
Right.
We know that we are a gift to each other, but we believe so much in this gift that we think it's out there for everybody.
Right. You can find that one person.
Exactly. And so if you don't have that person yet, don't go, well, I can't do this because I don't have it. Join this community.
Right.
So starting in January 2022, we are going to start going through the book that we've been talking about.
Yes.
And we're going to open it up
Here
to
it is.
everyone. We're going to do it as a Zoom.
Yeah, it's gonna be a Zoom. It's gonna be
book
a virtual.
club. We'll call it a book club. So it'll be virtual. We'll give you more details as we get closer, because right now, we got a little bit of time. But we want to invite you to join this community, and we are doing this for you. We are doing this for us.
Yes.
We are doing this for our children.
Yeah.
I'm doing
Old
it for
and
my
young,
grandchildren.
grown and adult and non-adult. So
yeah, I'm doing it for my grandchildren. I only have one right now, but I have 5 kids, so I should probably get some more one day. So there's there's a whole lot of people. There's the legacy that we leave.
That's a good word.
Starts
Legacy.
with us.
Legacy.
And we can leave a legacy of codependence and fear and shame and control, or we can leave a legacy of love and freedom and peace and healing and independence versus codependence.
Exactly. So if you're a parent, and for instance, the thought of your child leaving home and going away makes you just like want to melt down, you might be codependent, right? If you don't ever want your child to move out of your house, you're probably codependent. If you want...
I'm so sorry, but I got it.
Stop it. That's crazy. Sorry. We're real. This is not a Hallmark movie. This is not a Hallmark movie.
Mosquitoes.
We had a mosquito in the house that's been driving us crazy, but she got it. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So
I'm done now. I'm done now.
Stop it. So anywho, we would love for you to join us anywhere in the country. You can join us because it's going to be Zoom. Yeah. And we're going to go through that book and we're going to walk through this and we're going to learn these lessons together.
And we're going to work through it together.
Yes, we're going to do it together, and you're going to have a supportive community that you can reach out to. And if you have a friend, do it with your friend. Yeah. If you need someone to be accountable with, like we are. Yeah. You can have that. Find a friend. Find the person that is another codependent that you two can maybe do this together.
And if you don't have anybody, still come, because you might meet somebody in this
virtually
group that ends up being your partner in this, and you guys will have everything you need to help each other grow and heal and bond.
Exactly. So we're going to encourage you and invite you to come with us
clap my hands
as we
together.
don't stop. You disgust me.
Stop. I keep doing it because it's grossing you out so much. But how do you think I feel? It's sitting here on my hand. I have to wash it off.
So, So anywho, all of that to say, we just wanted to share with you some of the things that, like real life examples of how we're changing and growing and how this is impacting us.
And what it looks like in real life.
Right.
What it looks like in application.
Yes. So, and it's not just romantic relationships or family relationships. It can be work relationships. Absolutely. Anything, church, whatever you're involved in.
Neighbors.
Right?
All relationships are,
absolutely.
How we get triggered and how we react to people all goes back to this. So let's do healing so we can improve all of our relationships.
Yes, we want it.
We do the work.
Yeah, we got to do the work. So if you're willing to put in the work, and you're willing to get in there and get it done. And it's not going to be easy. And it's not going to be fun sometimes. It'll be fun, but not fun. It's going to be hard. It's going to be painful and it's hard. So we're not going to pretend like it's not.
No, but it's okay.
It's hard work.
You can do hard things.
Yeah. So, okay, so like and subscribe and send us your questions.
Thanks for joining
everybody.
us. And thanks for sharing your story.
Oh, sure. Thanks for you sharing. All right. Bye.
Bye. Did that stop? Is that stopped?